What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Virgin Galactic. Go over some of the data points, break it down what's really been moving it, and why it might be a good time to buy. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Virgin Galactic has had a fairly nice run, even on Friday, going up 1.53%, 323 the low, 340 the high. And you have seen a uptick in volume, which is always, in my opinion, a relatively positive thing. A couple things to take note of though, over the last roughly 1 month, it is up 10.74%. There hasn't really been that much in operational updates from the company itself, so rather it's just been piggybacking off the broader market. I don't think anyone really cares on the exact reason why it's kind of moving higher, but ultimately next week's going to be a big one for Virgin, and even going into next week the technicals are looking pretty a-okay, so I'll go over that near the end of the video. But September the 17th we do have most likely that 25 basis point cut going to be done, and so I think largely that's already been priced into the broader market. But the market is always forward looking. So as soon as this happens, it's going to start looking for the next catalyst. And potentially that could be October the 29th meeting, where already there is a 79% likelihood of a following 25 basis point cut, and then now a 5.5% likelihood of a 50 basis point cut. This in among itself is really going to fuel the broader market. None of this has been priced in my opinion. So aside from that though, I haven't really been doing that much Virgin Galactic videos. Last one I did bring up how it was rather odd that shorts, which technically have been a very big pain in I guess Virgin Galactic's side, have been returning. And so at the time of doing this video, 19.3% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 11.08 million shares. On Friday, shorts did return 163,000 shares. Cost of our average kind of in line with what I've in previous videos, so that's sitting at 30.6. that is a annual rate, not a daily rate. DTC is 3.73 days, so that does signal that shorts are still overextended. DTC does factor in the average volume for Virgin in comparison to number of shares being shorted, but you can kind of see from this bluish line, teal or whatever the hell you want to call it, back in February short interest was 37%. For whatever reason, shorts have been returning more and more. They kind of had a little bit of a push higher in June, but that's when things really kind of went sideways. They went from 32% short interest to a low of 14. So $1 million question is, why are shorts doing all of this very weird price action? And essentially, I think it's just because of the broader market's momentum. And so as I've alluded to in the past, big money is going to be really looking for value plays. Even if some companies aren't profitable, such as Virgin Galactic, they still offer good value. And so essentially I think we are getting close to that price point where it is enticing to institutions. This is why we've been seeing a uptick in the volume, and why most likely shorts have started to catch on to that and started to return. And again, even right now at 19%, shorts are overextended. So you can only imagine when it was at like 40% short interest. So I think they've been starting to mitigate risk, which is rather unfortunate if you're one of those individuals that have been really wanting a squeeze play for Virgin. But honestly, I'd rather have, in my opinion at least, a stock that goes up nice and gradually, as what's been happening over the last 1 month, rather than these crazy spikes that Virgin goes through. A little bit of a temporary short squeeze, so it goes from about $3 to like $4.80, $5, and then because of that, there's no real support levels. So essentially it just goes back down. So I think what is happening with Virgin isn't fun, it isn't sexy, it's not like, oh my god, I'm going to get rich tomorrow, but I think it is a lot healthier than what has happened. That might be unpopular opinion. But aside from that, looking at the options, 989,000 in calls, 462,000 in puts, 59% of all the options being done are bearish in nature, and the net premiums did go down 329,000. Based on this, options have never really been that popular for Virgin. I have no idea why there is weeklies available. Probably market makers in the foreseeable future might cut it down to just monthlies, but for right now, based on the bulls, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $3.50 to $4 going into next week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $3. So a little bit more of a back and forth there. These are all the transactions that did occur on Friday on the dark pool. So one transaction, but then again, that's rather normal. Actually, to be fully honest, normal is 0 transactions. So a lot of the transactions that do occur are generally smaller in nature, but we've seen this kind of move higher. So institutions do hold 15.27% of the outstanding shares. That's gone up from, I think it was like 12%. So again, goes to show that institutions are buying, but primarily it shows public and other, aka retail, that is sitting at 84.45. So retail still does largely own Virgin Galactic. Aside from that, with it at 331, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 293 is going to be that strong support. 334 is going to be what you want to eye in the short term, and ideally, best case scenario, it closes above that. 375 and then 4 will be the following target / resistance points. Quickly going over here though, so you can kind of see that it is ready to move higher. So that 50-day moving average, so that's always a big deal for kind of momentum, speculative stocks, and in Virgin Galactic's case. So that 50-day moving average is at 334. Conveniently, that pivot point for that fib levels. So in the short term, if it can actually close above it, because it's actually broken above that for the last 2 days, but if it's able to successfully get above it and close it, then this is where you could see a very nice push higher, largely based on the technicals. One thing to take note of though is looking at the market position. There's a lot of walls of selling, but when things get heated with Virgin, things tend to go up fairly fast. So 370, that's kind of where it might meet a very strong resistance point, which again, going back to the fib levels, was a key level to really watch for. Looking at the flow though, so you see the smaller transactions is kind of massive. So that does mean that a lot of the volume that does come in are just smaller transactions / algorithmic trading. But I think all in all, things are looking pretty a-okay, especially on a technical standpoint. One thing I do want to bring up though is based on this, since I haven't done a video in a while, we haven't received that much in analyst ratings. Last one was done 24 days ago. It was a $2 sell. Bernstein Douglas has a 57% success rating. As a consensus over the last 3 months, 304 is that price target, representing a 8.16% downside. So is Virgin Galactic like the best company out there? No. Because, like I said, the market is always looking for that next big catalyst, and in Virgin's case, that's in 2026, a little bit far out. So you're not going to see a lot of FOMO or just whatever else. So I think just why it is moving higher is just because of the broader market, and just at the same time, institutions just seeing a little bit of value with Virgin. But if they were to put out some news right now, just some general updates, I feel like that could really help the stock price and really push it higher more than what it has been. But like I said, if it's able to get and close above that 50-day moving average, then things should look fairly a-okay. And so yeah, let me know your thoughts on Virgin. Like I said, I haven't really been doing that much in videos on it, but I'm just waiting for most likely 2026, which should be its year to shine. If not, then yeah, you're going to see it fall by the wayside. But nonetheless, it's actually been holding up at a lot of key support levels. So going back over here, if you're wanting to average down, swing trade, or whatever else, that 293 has been diamond support. So if you're one of those like value investors, you might want to orient your bias towards that. But at least in the short term, I feel like higher highs might be coming. Probably not a squeeze play, like I said, because shorts have already started to return quite a lot, and most likely in the foreseeable future, with rate cuts coming down the line, they will be continuing to return. So let me know your thoughts on Virgin. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. But one final thing, if you're looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.